fact that change is no longer considered fun in our culture is an interesting paradox, because there was a time in America when we were entrepreneurial, we were adaptable, we were flexible, we were the ones that were going to change the world. Well, in order to do that, you have to be willing to change yourself. And now, as we see in Washington and we see in the economy, we're in gridlock, and change has become the enemy. We have to become aware that fear is actually running the show. We have to bring it out of the closet, we have to talk about it, and we need tools, we need support mechanisms. Not just pharmaceuticals, not just instant gratification, but real, hands-on, useful, physical, mental, and emotional tools to help us move through fear. In my book, I break down the process of change, or the cycle of change, into 6 stages. The beginning, which is a rupture, something is out of kilter, could be very dramatic, like losing your job, but it could also be less dramatic. It could be simply being bored in your relationship, in your career, having peaked in your leadership role at the organization where you work. So that's the rupture. The second stage is a release process. It's letting go of some aspect of our lives, some aspect of who we know ourselves to be that's no longer useful to us. The third stage is the retreat stage, and in many cases people think that's the end. I've discovered over many years of working with clients that it's actually the middle of the process. A time for hibernation, a time to rest, a time to plant seeds for the new opportunities that will be coming, the reinvention to take place. After the third stage, we move into the revival stage, which is really the playful beginner phase of the cycle. And then beyond that, we move into a stage I call rehearsal, which is when people make a decision to commit to a new job, a new relationship, and that requires moving into a different level of activity, of practice. And then finally, the 6th stage is the realization stage, when you've actually manifested a new sense of who you are in the world. What we have become accustomed to in our culture is this idea that if we change our minds, we'll change our lives. But we're more than just thinking beings. We're more than just cognitive, cerebral machines. Human beings are not brains on a stick. We're actually human beings in a body. And when I work with clients and I want to help them move through their fears and actually get through the upheaval or the change that's happening in their lives, it's impossible to do that unless you take the body along for the ride. And there are very few self-help books that actually integrate the physical, the emotional, and the mental aspects of change. I have to take issue with what's happening in what I call the instant self-help industry, which is we've become very attached to the idea that happiness is something that we need to achieve constantly. And that we buy the right book or do the right practice and then we take the right 5 steps and we're going to be on the happiness train for the next 15 years. It's not realistic. My book has stages, it has tools, it has 6 steps, but it's not instant gratification. It's a book that's really a workbook for life that you will return to over and over again. And that, I think, has been missing from the bookshelves. The story you tell yourself about who you are and what's possible can be rewritten at any time.